So we're on, back again. We had a little break, not too long, a couple of weeks, but we're back. Thank you for waiting, thank you for tuning in. This week we have Zero West Watches, and Andy, welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. It's fantastic to be in Liverpool.
Yep.
Amazing city. Been made to feel really welcome.
Good.
Really appreciate you having us on the show. It's great to be here.
It's a bit of a journey for you, isn't it? Where are you guys based?
Yeah, we're down on the south coast, in between Portsmouth and Chichester, not far from Goodwood Motor Circuit, and overlooking over the sea. So it's about as south as you could get. So a bit of a trek, but totally worth it. So
amazing.
Appreciate being
Well, thanks
here.
for coming up, mate. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So I think we first crossed paths, mate, a few years back at one of the Divers Watches shows in, what was it, Sofitel?
Yeah, I think it was World Time UK.
World Time UK.
Yeah, great show.
Really good show, mate.
Yeah.
And we were chatting about that earlier, actually. It's priced accessibly for most people to go down and exhibit and show off their wares. But that's when we first crossed paths, mate. And that was a number of years ago now. Now, the space and the scene, as it were, at the minute, there's a lot of brands that have come in over the last 2 years. You guys have been here for a little longer than that.
Yeah.
So what I like to do with everyone, mate, before we get into the depths, as it were, is a bit on you. So who are you? Where did you grow up? What's the story? How did you end up in this?
I'm originally from the South Coast. I've always been interested in watches. My background's design. Graphics, specialising in typography and branding. Went to art college, pimped Swatch watches at college.
Nice.
So I was always into watches. And my background is design, and I've worked in a number of design agencies and branding.
Yeah.
I worked for myself for a few years. And then probably it was around 2016, I've got a friend, Graham Collins.
Yep.
He's an engineer, ex-military engineer. He's done a lot of work in aerospace.
Yeah.
He's one of these irritating guys, can build his own house. And he's great. And, every year or a couple of months I'd see him and he'd talk to me about, he's madly into watches too, being into mechanical engineering. And he said, I want to design a watch, something I've always wanted to do. And I never offered to help out because, I thought he could do it. And then what happened was one Christmas, he sent me a 3D render. It was in 2016 of this beautiful case design. And he said, what do you think? And instead of just emailing back and going, it looks great, I designed him a dial, I designed him a logo, I put it into his 3D render.
Wow.
And I turned it into an advert with a chrome biplane. It was a bit Breitling-esque. And I just sent it back to him and said, your watch could look like this. And he emailed straight away back going, do you want to set up a watch brand? Like ludicrous sort of mad thing. We sat down together and we realised, the skill set that I had and the vendor base with web, photography, design, marketing, social media, everything like that. And the vendor base that he had with mechanical engineering, working in aerospace and designing watches, all the metal, the infrastructure. We stood a good chance of being able to design a watch, but we realised quite early on that we would need to design a brand around that watch at the same time, which is fundamental.
Yeah, it's fundamental.
So, we spent 3 years... 3 years designing, prototyping, trademarking the logo, which we had lots of problems with.
Of course.
And then we did the thing that like all people do. We thought, let's go to Basel World when it was still on. Like a couple of newbies.
Yeah.
And I always remember we were on the plane and there was this really kind of guy in a suit sat next to us. I think he was Swiss. I don't know. He worked for GQ or something like that. And I remember him saying, where are you guys going? And we go, we're off to Basel. And he said, what are you doing now? Just to look around. Anything you're particularly interested in? We said, no, we're doing some research. We're setting up, we could have gone to Argos. We said, we're doing some research. We want to set up a watch brand. And he laughed and he said, good luck with that. And it was really interesting because he let it, when we got off the plane, we saw him walk off into the distance and Graham looked at me and I looked at him and I said, we're going to do this. One day he's going to write about us. We've had a lot of, especially in the early days, a lot of mountains to climb.
Of course,
it's not for the faint-hearted.
So what year was Basel? When was that, 16, 17?
17. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you kind of caught that at the tail end.
It was. I mean, for anybody that's never been, it is a surreal experience.
And what did you learn? What was the trip worth it?
It was. It was just to go to one place, a concentrated place, and really study in the flesh or the metal, so to speak, the architecture, the design, the way brands present themselves, all the small nuances. And done a lot of research over the internet, and of course we were watch collectors.
Of course,
and
sure.
and then
We've been to a show or two of that.
Yeah. So it wasn't. It was just something that we felt we wanted to do, but it was massively valuable from what we gained there, and just part of the rich ups and downs tapestry. We got an Airbnb.
Nice.
Literally at the last minute, and we. I swear the room was so small we had to sleep standing up.
Nice.
Everybody thinks the watch world's super glamorous.
No.
Wasn't like it wasn't like that in the early days.
I was chatting to someone day before yesterday, and they went out to Watches and Wonders last week, and they said, well, the perception online is it's this Gucci, glamorous, sexy venue. Said you turn up, mate, after about an hour, it's like being in a big IKEA. It's just basically what it is. But there's a glam element, mate, that's perceived across social life. Necessarily isn't always there. But mate, what an adventure! So
it was.
So he came up with this idea.
Well, it was Graham's mad idea
on a case shape and this, that, and the other. You've brought that alive by adding a face to it, and
what happened was, we sat down, we had a chat, and then he said to me, "Why don't you go away and put some mood boards together for how the brand could develop?" And what was really important when we were talking about the case that he actually designed, it's moved on since then, was the fact that we had some DNA, some identity, and we felt that we didn't want to be a Me Too brand. It was really important that when you see one of our watches close up or from a distance, you could tell it was a Zero West. And if that meant being Marmite, we were happy with that, because we just didn't want to. There's a lot of generic stuff going on.
You touched on something there, mate, where you said a Me Too brand. Explain that. So some people are not well versed in.
Well, I'll give you a good example. So in the early days, I to gain experience talking about the brand, I've got a 40 slide show of how we set up the watch brand, what it was all about. And there's a section in that talks about how important case design and brand identity is. And because we're design driven and that's our background, so that was massively important to us. We like brands like Panerai for the unique case designs. There's lots of other things as well. So, and what I did was I took 3 watches that were well known and 3 really cheap watches that were well known. And then what I did was I photo retouched the logos. So I put the expensive logos, the expensive watches on the cheap watches, and swapped it over. And then during that, I would ask, the people in front of me, which watches they gravitated towards. And some of those people that were there were watch people. Some of them weren't. But the majority of them do tend to go to the brands that they know. Of course. And they were like hands down winners. And then afterwards, I'd say, played a little trick on you. Please don't be offended that you've actually chosen the £99 Timex.
Whatever.
And that followed on to the case designs that they'd chosen were pretty much generic cases that are very similar across cheap to expensive, obviously different materials and everything else. And then we moved on to our own case designs and choosing iconic case designs, like the Cartier Santos and, the Submariner and things like that, certain aspects and an Navitimer and what those bring to the party in terms of identity, the finesses that in the way that they've been manufactured. And then we looked at our cases raw. So I then show a slide with our cases and how Graham's designed those with the dual sculpted lugs, and that architecture was massively important for the foundation of our brand, and it's something that we follow on now. So it's kind of the bedrock of the
You've
brand.
got a unique design language.
And that's massively important. I think sometimes it gets overlooked because we're very history driven. But the bottom line is we design everything in house. We 3D render everything in house. The leather straps, we learned how to make those in house. Even the rubber straps, we did all the tooling for that locally. They're produced in Surrey.
Amazing.
At a company that does a lot of work for the MOD. And of course, companies like that, it's not their usual bread and butter. And they're really excited to be doing something different. And then on the other hand, I'm sure we're a slight irritation because unless it's perfect, it's not right.
We operate in an environment, mate, where the tolerances are ridiculous. Like ridiculous. We're talking like 1/5 of a human hair. In some instances. It's crazy, like absolutely crazy. And trying to use and utilize the craftsman and the industrial complex that we have on this island of ours is somewhat difficult sometimes from from a standpoint where we're coming at it from with the tolerances, because most folks who are working to those tolerances are either in F1 or aviation.
Which is Graham's background.
Absolutely.
Which is where it comes into play.
Okay.
So,
yeah. So you've got a cheat code there with Graham, mate.
It's like our secret.
Mate, it's amazing.
Actually, he's got some great stories from his early days, but obviously he's signed a lot of confidential stuff. So he's like a comedian that can't tell you the punchline. But he's fascinating. Fascinating the way his brain works.
So how did you meet him, mate?
Just through my wife's. They were at school together.
Okay.
I've known Graham quite a long time now.
And that's that.
He's
mega.
So it's a great collaboration.
Yeah.
We're very, very different people, and but it gels. It gels really well. So
out of the collection you've got, mate, as you touched on earlier, a lot of it's history driven.
Yeah.
Can you explain why? What's the driver behind that?
I think if I'll drill it back. Yeah. So when we were designing the brand, we were bouncing ideas for the name. And Graham's into maps and Greenwich and stars and everything like that. And we saw the coordinates at Greenwich was 0 degrees west. And it's the prime meridian that runs through Greenwich. It's where time starts. Harrison's clock, the H4 clock, keeping longitude. So for us, that was a really cool name, 0 degrees west. And what we thought we would do through the mood boards I put together is each of our watches would have 3 stipulations.
Yeah.
They'd commemorate a British engineering achievement.
Okay.
Be it the birth of the Spitfire, land speed record, that sort of thing. There would be a human element to it, which is massively important, which we would do the research on. And then there would be an event. So all our dials have a latitude and longitude and date code. And if you Google those, it will actually take you to a moment in history.
Of course, yeah.
And then what we do is study that moment and bring the design attributes to the dial.
Yeah.
We research, we work with a historical illustrator that does all the side profiles of all our planes and cars and stuff like that. So they're historically accurate. We work with a local RAF guy that does loads of research for us. So it's massively in depth. Yeah, massively in depth.
Unreal.
And then some of our watches have historical metal in the back.
Of course.
From the different projects.
You got the Hurricane piece on there, mate.
Yeah, got the H2 Hurricane.
How do you acquire metal from a Hurricane? Like, how does that come? Obviously, like, you have to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Who do you ring?
It's really interesting because in the early days, we had to do a lot of work.
Yeah.
As you can imagine, we would contact museums.
Yeah.
There are accredited salvage experts, that you can get those through. And now we're finding, not last year, just over a year ago, we were approached by the Science Museum. And they had done a lot of research on us, and they wanted to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Flying Scotsman. Would be interested in creating a timepiece that commemorated this amazing engineering train locomotive. And could we work with some of the boiler tube as part of the refit from the original locomotive into the back of the watches? So they came down to see us. They were really excited and hoped that we would say yes. And so we did some trial runs with the boiler tube, which was exceptionally difficult to work with. Took us 3 or 4 months. But that was a great project. We got the boiler tube, we had to clean it down, chemically clean it, but not too much. We slit it, and then we had to, nothing like a hammer. I know that doesn't tie with watches.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you, mate.
We had to flatten this boiler tube by hammer. It takes about nearly 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then it was welded to a plate, and then it was skived off to 1.2 millimeter thick. Wow. And we took it to another company that had a 20-ton turret press, and they punched out these discs. And then it went to another company, and it was laser engraved with the original cab number. And Graham designed the back of the watch to house this big disc. Each one's different, with a reverse printed sapphire crystal over the top. And the front of the watch was designed to emulate the pressure gauge and speedometer from the original cab. And we were very fortunate to be able to gain access to the locomotive to get all the historical photos and references that we needed for the project. It was great. It was that's a great example.
It's epic. Absolutely epic.
Yeah.
I love this. And I've seen it like every year at the different shows. I only ever tend to bump into you guys at the shows.
Yeah.
That's because we're like opposite ends of the country.
Yeah.
But there's always some sort of new project or some cool, really like weird thing going on, and I get to see the watch. I'm like, what have you done this year? And it's fun, mate. You must have so much fun with it.
We do, but the hardest part is not being able to talk about stuff. We did a watch that commemorated the Dam Busters, Operation Chastise. We always wanted to do that project. Finding material was nigh on impossible.
Yeah.
19 Lancasters, only 11 came back. None of them are in existence today. And it was only by chance we met a famous aviation artist, Mark Postlethwaite, and he was part of the expedition team to go to northern France to help identify the remains of a Lancaster bomber that had modifications to it. So we did the project in collaboration with him. We knew about that for about a year and a half. And you get customers coming in going,
what's new? What's going on?
And you go, you should do this watch.
Yeah.
And then I think it was like 4 months ago, Graham went up north to see a potential project.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you what it is. All I can tell you is he said, I went into this room and it was the size of a porter cabin, and they're chatting away and they're going, yep, we're happy. We think, we would love to work with you on this project. And then they said, do you want to see it? I can't say what it is. And Graham's going, yeah, I'd love to see it. And he said, I opened the door and there is like a hangar that's the size of like 4 football pitches. Wow. And there's this thing in there. And he said, it was just there. It was just there.
Yeah,
he said, I just goosebumps. I froze to the spot. And I heard last week that project's has got the green light. So, which is great. We have to go through quite a few red tape and,
of course.
Unfortunately, you can't rush these. And when you're design driven, it has to be right.
Things take time.
Yeah, they do.
That's something I realised in business, mate, that like, I came into this as a general consumer, same as we all are at some point in our lives. And I want everything yesterday. I have no patience. My dad used to say to me, when God was giving out patience, you thought it was a girl and you went looking for her. But that's things take time. And I've learned that. So this process you've got now, where you've had this initial conversation, you've jumped in the car, on the train, whatever, and you've gone up north, had the conversation with whoever you need to have that conversation with. Now you've got a green light. That period of time's probably taken a few months already.
Yeah.
So now...
Yeah. Well, actually, that particular one's taken probably, from the initial conversations, probably half a year.
Wow,
so,
okay.
Yeah.
So on the timeline then, from where we're at now, when do you anticipate this coming out?
That's really interesting. Timelines are we talk about that quite a lot.
It's a guesstimate.
Yeah, so we're working on a rolling, we know what we're doing in 3 years' time.
Okay.
It's not set in stone.
Yeah.
And the frustrating, and the reason why it's fluid is because we get approached by people or companies that want us to do stuff.
Yes.
And the hardest part with that is they don't understand that, either don't understand the process or the fact that we've got other things penciled in, more than penciled in.
Yes.
Marker penned in. So, it's torture.
That's fascinating, maybe.
In a nice way.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's a takeaway for a lot of listeners as well, is lots of industries have a timeline associated to whatever it is they make, they do, they produce, whatever. No one, I don't think, really, mate, unless you're building cruise ships or mega yachts, has got a timeline set out the way watches and things like that are. As you said there, it's like 3 years. You know what's coming up in 3 years. I'm currently designing stuff for the tail end of next year.
Yeah.
And that, it just is. And like, when we have releases like we had last week, and I don't want to get into that, like everyone's entitled to their opinion, and that's a rabbit hole. That's not what we're here to do, right? But when we do have releases like we had last week, it almost looks like these things have just been manifest. Like they've just appeared out of thin air. Someone's been working on that for years. Do you know what I mean? And years. Like, and sometimes we have to remind ourselves that as watch guys. Do you know what I mean? Like, just how long these things take.
Oh, it's and so for instance, we had some samples back on a dial. And if we had an investor involved with the company, which fortunately we don't.
Fortunately or unfortunately?
Well, I'd say, definitely fortunately for us, because, I'm sure a lot of the decisions we'd make an investor would cringe at, but it's important to us.
Of course.
And I'm sure we've made some changes, and it pushes a project on.
Yeah.
And it's hard. On one hand, it's hard to do that, but it's the right thing. And at the end of the day, you never want to put something out that you think, I should have done that.
Of course.
I should have done that. And the downside of when you're design driven and you are the client and you're producing it is you can go down rabbit holes for weeks at a time. And then you have to be strong enough at the end of it to say to each other, there's a different way we can do this. yeah,
That's no, you're not wrong there, mate. And sometimes I think Jose was on the other week, and I think he
he's a great guy,
mate. So sometimes you got to make it shit to make it good.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's just part of the process. But being able to identify that is key.
Yeah.
It's really key. So out of the projects that you've done thus far, mate, and you've done a few, I love the
Hurricane,
the Hurricane, Hercules. I got the wrong aircraft in my head there. I said it again.
Yeah, that's always the way.
The Hurricane, the H2. Right, I love that, and I love the land speed. Why don't you do
Bullhead.
What's your favourite out of everything you've done?
Oh, that's like, I'm sure everyone would say the same. It's like asking which of your kids is the better looking. Each one means something different.
Yeah.
You know, I often get customers to say, "Oh, if you could choose one watch yourself, which one would it be?" It's always the newest one.
Yeah.
Because I love the Bullhead because the engineering behind it, well, for several reasons. One is I believe we're the only British brand that does an automatic Bullhead. There's only a few brands that actually produce those.
Yeah.
It's a really unique looking watch, really difficult to engineer. And that is beautiful. It's a bit, you know, it has presence on the wrist, but super comfortable. But I think the Lancaster watches, because what that has meant to people. We had a customer come from Wales and to pick up his watch, his Dan Buster watch. And when he turned up, the car reversed into the car parking space outside the studio. And he got out, and then there was a passenger, and there was an old guy, and he helped him out with a Zimmer frame, and it took a little while to come in, and we've got a lovely sofa, great studio for customers to come and visit. And he sat down, and he said, "Oh, my father doesn't come out much, but he used to work at the factory where they made the bouncing bombs."
Wow.
And they stayed for like, the stories he was telling me, it was fantastic. You know, oh yeah, we all had the little hut, the little buildings with all big earth mounds around the sides. And I was going, and because if anything went off, the roof would come down. And he was fascinating. And his son wrote me a lovely letter the following week saying it was one of the best days, not only that his father had, but they'd had together for years. And I saw him at a watch show maybe 6 months later, and I said, "Oh, how's your father?" And he said, "Oh, And he said, "Hey, thanks." Wow. You know, he gave me a hug, and he said, "Thanks for making."
Yeah.
You know.
No, I get it, mate.
And it's for us. You know, we often say a watch without a story is just a watch, but it's not just. For us, there's three stories. There's the story of us creating this watch, and the stories behind that.
Yeah.
But there's also the story of how you found that watch, the story of the interaction with that watch. And for something that's so personal to us, quite often, I know we're an internet brand primarily, but we're very hands-on over the phone and online. In a lot of situations, it's devoid of that. So we try and create memories because it's massively important.
Mate, it's nothing quite like those memories.
No.
Do you know what I mean? It's nothing quite like that guy will probably remember that for the rest of his life, and that'll be a cherished moment. Well, he will remember it for the rest of his life. It's
and
a big part of his.
And sometimes we have these moments, and you when they leave, or you suddenly the monetary aspect or the designing of the watch aspect just gets lost in the emotion of what you've been able to create for somebody.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Creating moments.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Absolutely.
And we, as we said earlier, we're very fortunate to work in this space.
It's emotionally led, mate.
Yeah.
It is. And what we do, we engage emotionally with our customers, and there's an emotional buy-in, and that's exactly what it is. So having stories and being able to share them, and having something like the one you've got in your wrist there, where you can physically hold it, touch it. There's a piece of aircraft in the back. The crown even. There's like the Spitfire.
The crown's the fire button from the joystick, and
it's unreal. Absolutely unreal.
Yeah.
It's these are the stories and the storytelling elements that bring people together, and this is what people buy into, I think, and that's so crucial for so many brands to have this.
I think you're correct, 100% correct, and I think what's really important to me and Graham is that we realise we're dealing with a sensitive subject as well, and that we have a duty of care to the story, to the people that are involved with the story, to commemorate in the right way. So we like to give back as well.
Yeah,
For instance, with the Lancaster project, the famous aviation artist, this will make you laugh. So the famous aviation artist, Mark Postlethwaite, that worked with the Lancaster project, we said to him, we'd love to commission you to do this beautiful painting for us of a Lancaster flying out. And he said, yeah, that's no problem. And it became like the image of the watch. And we had it up in the studio and we said, right, what we're going to do is we're going to do a blind auction. And it was in a beautiful gilt frame and everything. And then what we'll do is we'll whoever donates the most money will win the painting, and we'll do a load of PR. They'll come to the studio and all the rest of it. The guy that won it was from the States. So, and we suddenly realized we've got it already in the gilt frame and we're like, and this guy bought several watches from us. And, in the end, we were super lucky. He actually buys a lot of art, and we actually had to get it to Oxford to a quite a well-known in those circles aviation company that boxed it up for him. But we raised loads of money, and that went to Lincolnshire Aviation, the Just Jane project. They're restoring a Lancaster bomber up there, and it was great to be able to give something back like that we do. Yeah, from that. And we've got lots of plans for similar sort of restoration projects. We've just become a restoration partner for a Spitfire AA810, which was a photo reconnaissance Spitfire. And that pilot was shot down over Norway and ended up in the camp for the Great Escape.
Wow.
So that's an incredible story. So, and we're contributing to getting the whole of the cockpit dials all restored, which seem fitting for our brand. So we'll be following the restoration of that, and hopefully in a year or two that's going to be back in the air. So
it's amazing.
We get some exciting stuff like that.
You have so much fun with this. Like I'm jealous
Well,
in many ways, mate.
Well, we got when you're down south, you've got to come to the studio. We got this old boathouse design studio, and we during COVID, we a lot of people who bought watches said, "Don't send them. We'll come and pick them up." So it sounds weird now to say people couldn't come, but we decided to do the studio up, and it's an old boathouse. It has historical. It used to be a garage, so it has a lot of automotive history. And just before COVID, or in between the lockdown and stuff, I get a phone call from a watch guy who'd bought one of our watches, and he said, "Oh, a friend of mine, he's a farmer. And he's restoring a Spitfire in his barn."
As you do.
Yeah. And he goes, "Do you want to go and see it?" And I said, "Yeah, that'd be great." So I put down the phone and I said to Graham, this can't be real, but I make a great story. I'm going to go and see him. So I turn up at this farmer's house, and he's there, and he's
fairly local to you.
Yeah, New Forest.
Wow.
So I turn up, and there's the farmer in his wellies at the front door, Jack Russell, and he's chewing a bit of straw, whatever, right out of kind of one of these TV programs. And he goes, "You want to see the Spit?" And I said, "Yeah." And so we walk up to this barn, and I'm thinking, and there's a Defender there with outside with two wheels off it. Amazing. There's a sofa with a chicken on it. And I'm thinking, oh man.
You sure you win in Wales?
Yeah. And I thought, and he literally, massive barn door. I just stood there like, you are kidding me. Fuck.
Just there.
Their wings were off it. And there's a guy there in all the green overalls with all the patches on, restoring it. And I was going, what the fuck?
He's going on.
Yeah, it crashed in northern France. So it's like, we're restoring it here. He goes, in a month's time, it's got to be transported to Biggin Hill, because to be airworthy, it has to be finished, accredited. Yeah. And so he goes, have a look around. So I phoned Graham up. It's and I said, "You've got to get over here." So a couple of days later, we revisited. But he had a spares room that was massive, little warehouse, floor to ceiling racking, all the dials from different planes, canopies, bits of bodywork. Hey. And in the corner, was this a Mark 9 Spitfire engine. And it was had a few bullet holes in it. It was a great big lump. And I said to him, "What are you doing with that?" I said, "That looks too far gone." He said, "Yeah, we couldn't restore that. Too far gone." And I said, "That looked great in our studio." And he goes, "Well, it's no good it's sitting here. You might as well, will people come and see it?" I said, "Yeah, that'd be great. We could." Graham had just designed the whole studio, 3D rendered it on his computer like you do, and beautifully designed. And there was a centerpiece, and we were looking for an engine. And he said, "Yeah, but you've got to come and pick it up." And at the time, I thought, I was so happy to be able to have this.
I'd have pulled that back with my teeth.
Oh my God.
Given the opportunity.
It is so heavy. Luckily we got a friend that has got a pickup, with a crane on it, and the old farmer had an old forklift. We got it on the back of this trailer, and then that was the easy bit, because we got it outside the studio.
Getting it off.
and then getting it into the studio.
Of course, yeah.
And we'd just done the floor, and we had to board it down, and so I had 5 friends, and we said, that's all I've got.
Yeah.
When you're doing watches,
Six
you have
now.
to-
Six now.
Six now. And I roped them into trying to get it. We had it on some wheels, and then we got it stuck in the doorway, and it was, this is going terrible. We had to hire 2 mobile cranes. And then I promised them a pint when it was all done, at the pub. So they were all like rushing, you would do. And they put it in, they're all fist pumping the air. And then I said to Graham, is that straight? Trouble is, when you're into watches,
Of course.
You're
working at tolerances
totally.
of a Nat's private bars. Yeah.
And so we spent another 2 hours getting it straight. But it looks fantastic. And everybody that comes down to the studio, we've actually had a professional model maker make a scaled model of the actual MA764 Spitfire that crashed in northern France. And you researched the whole story.
Yeah.
The guy was 22, just married, shot down.
Jesus.
Took him 3 months to get home. His wife didn't know what happened to him. He was taken in by the local farmer.
And he's just cutting across Norway.
Hooked up with the French resistance, had to go to southern France, through Spain, had to pretend he was mute at the border, and then got to Gibraltar and managed to get home. And him and his wife had a baby girl.
He went that way.
He went that way.
Wow.
I mean, so many stories that you don't hear about.
Wow. Have you ever been in Norway?
Sorry, no, not Norway. Sorry.
Where was he shot down?
He was shot down northern France.
Northern France. Sorry, I got it wrong.
Gibraltar.
Gibraltar.
Yeah. Still far enough.
It's still far enough, mate.
Still far enough. But him and his wife had a baby girl, and they named it after the farmer's wife that saved him.
Wow.
Never flew again, but taught escape and evasion.
Right,
and you just think, how many of these people, these stories are great. And so we kind of, entangle these, weave these into our beautifully engineered timepieces it makes a real connection.
This podcast is sponsored by ZuluAlphaStraps.com. Zulu Alpha Straps make some of the best watch straps in the market, and we do it all here in the UK by hand. As a listener of the Making Time podcast, you can enjoy 15% off on your next order by using the discount code MAKINGTIME15. Your support makes this podcast possible, so please head over to ZuluAlphaStraps.com so we can continue to bring you fresh content. Now, back to the show. Do you ever get the opportunity to engage with the families on projects?
We do reach out. We do reach out. Not always very successful because of things. And then but what we do get, there was a Polish pilot that we commemorated called Ziggy Klein, and we got quite a lot of contact through social media. Yeah. From Polish families who were honoured that we'd recognised the contribution that Poland made. There was a lot of Polish pilots during the
303 Squadron.
Yeah,
if my memory serves me right. I think 303 Squadron. They put a shift in.
Yeah,
lads, they put a shift in. Heavily unrecognised for a long time.
Yeah,
not as recognised as they should have been. Certainly not.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what that was, but
I don't know. That's a love of politics. But I don't know why, but. Yeah, it's a phenomenal story. And I think there's a few films out about him now. It may be worth looking if you're listening and you fancy digging into that, check those out. Yeah, and we digress.
Yeah.
We digress.
Well, slightly, but it's all part of what we as a brand do and believe in.
Absolutely.
And we're very lucky that we've got such great engineering achievements to pull ideas from.
Yes.
So
So how's it going? I mean, you guys have started this company. You're doing your thing. You're getting the opportunity now to do other projects, new stuff.
Yeah,
strength
is massively exciting. A lot of customers abroad.
Yeah,
the States.
That's fun.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Apart from when the phone at work trips over to my mobile. So 3 o'clock in the morning phone calls, note to self, just to but they, especially the Americans, they're so, they go, is that Andrew? I'm not going to do the accent, but,
no, please do.
No. It's, they're massively engaged.
Yes.
Massively engaged. Yes. Yeah.
Mate, it's a phenomenal market out there. And I think it's really interesting to me because the American market are really, really keen on watches, but they're also really keen on the military and the history and the elements that Zero S bring to the party. And I think it's an awful lot of opportunity out there for you guys. And clearly that's starting to pay dividends, which is cool. Yeah,
I think that there's we're just trying to do it properly. And I think when we started the brand, I said to Graham, we're both of the same ethos enormously. We'd rather put something out that was of a higher quality and less margin.
Yeah.
Got to eat, got to turn the lights on.
Yeah.
But we want to stand by our product.
Yeah.
It's very much a part of us.
Yes,
and if somebody parts with their money to purchase one of our timepieces, we are massively appreciative, and that never wears off.
Of course,
there's a lot of choice out there. Yeah. So when we get people that, the other week we had 2 people that drove down from Manchester, stayed over the night, bought some watches, and you give them all the time they want. As long as they want to stay, as long as, and it's great because we have this fantastic studio, like I said, and we've got all the 3D models. We've got all the historical memorabilia that connects to the stories. We can show them when we make the straps. And something that's massively important, that's really important for me to stress, is that within the studio, we actually build all our watches there. So all our parts are made somewhere different. Every brand does it a different way, but for us, it feels the right way to do it. We're quite anal, meticulous. I'm sure irritating, but that's how we do it. And we've got a great stock room facility and a great workshop, and all the watches are built one by one.
An in-house watchmaker.
An in-house watchmaker.
Wow. Okay, so you can handle all your own servicing, everything.
All the servicing, all the watchmaking, all the prototyping, all the QC, all the QCing, everything. And so not only do we do the design all in-house, the leather straps are made. We make the rubber straps locally. We even do the website in-house, a lot of the photography, copywriting. We build all the watches internally. And that was a big decision for us financially, but it felt the right thing to do for us as a brand. We're not looking to be mass market. We don't want to be the next, whatever that may be. It's just important to to stay true to what we started the brand, the ethos that Graham and myself set out for at the beginning, and that hasn't changed. And that's really important because, as I started off with this conversation, there's so much choice out there. One of the biggest surprises to us as a brand is how many people have got more than, I was going to say more than one, but actually it's more than 4 or 5. And it's great to have that following. And we're very lucky. We've got like a Facebook group. We've got our own Facebook page. There's a Facebook fan club called the Facebook Collective.
Nice.
Big shout out to Simon Carter, who runs that along with Darren Roberts. They do a great job. They're not paid or anything. They're just enthusiasts. They've got both of them have got a lot of our watches, and that's a really fast growing Facebook collective, Zero West Facebook Collective. So check it out. And it's great. Everybody's doing wrist shots, and
of course,
and everybody that's come over. So it's a great community. Very strong.
It's epic when you see that. Like, you'll know this the same as you've experienced this the same as I have. You like that first order that comes in, and you're like, oh shit, it's real. Like, we're doing business. This is happening. Like, wow. Then all of a sudden, like, you get caught up into the spiral of running a company and HR and insurance and keeping the lights on and all the shit really that isn't fun. Do you know what I mean? And you get consumed by this, and if everything goes well for a set period of time, you're busy, and then all of a sudden an order will pop in and you'll be like, I recognize that name. And you click on it, it's like 5th order, 4th order, and you're like, wow, like, we're doing something right. Like, this is, not only are we putting out what we perceive, like, you know what you're making, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't need someone else to tell you what you make. You know exactly what you're making, right? But for other people to think the same way, what an amazing feeling that is. It's just like, wow, they've come back.
They have, and they feel. Which is why if somebody emails me on a Saturday night, if I've got the laptop open, I'll reply.
Of course,
because there's nothing worse than when you email a company, you get an auto reply. We aim to get back to you in the next 48 hours. What's that?
I get it.
We're watch enthusiasts.
We're all nerds to begin with.
Yeah, totally. And I will write a proper email to everybody that's bought a watch, and if it's a returning customer, and if I'll name check what watches they previously bought to thank them for adding that to their collection as well, because it's whether you bought one watch or however, you're all really
you're part of that club.
You're part of that club.
You're part
really
of that club.
important.
You're part of the family at that point, right? Do you want some more water?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah. I thought it was neat vodka.
Right, mate. The sun is not quite past the yard on yet. We've got about 24 minutes ago. No, 34 minutes ago. That's me getting excited.
Happy hour.
And then, mate, you're talking to a British sailor pal. It's always happy hour.
Happy day. Yeah.
Happy life, mate.
Happy
That's
life,
how it works.
yeah.
That's how it works. So what's on your horizon, mate? What are you guys up to? What's coming? Much of the same? Are you going left of arc of anything? What's going on?
Much of the same. We're working on some new watch. Let's park the themes for a moment, but new watches.
Yeah. Okay.
And when you work on stuff, it's never full time. It tends, you park it, you work on it solidly for a month or two.
Yeah.
Or Graham does, and we've got some stuff coming up that's like proper cool.
Yeah.
Like, this is British engineering at its best. This is what we do. This is why, this is what differentiates us. This is why you buy a Zero West. This is further confirmation of why, and we get asked a lot from customers, oh, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And of course we can't talk about it because things change and we don't like to talk about particular watches. But
you can never show too much leg, mate.
Yeah, but that excitement is what keeps it interesting, and people love guessing. And then we always set up teaser campaigns prior to launching a watch. Yeah. And everybody likes being part of the journey. And myself and Graham love being part of that and being able to facilitate that to the greater audience and to facilitate people's passions. And we've got customers who have got several of our watches who, up until 2 years ago, had never bought a watch.
Wow.
So it's great to be able to bring that in.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
But it's tough running a watch business. I know we were talking about it earlier.
Mate, it's not easy. And I think, again, most people in watches, mate, I've come into the industry because they were once consumers and they were collectors, and we're all nerds, as we said earlier. That is the way it is, and that's what you've got to be in this space. So because of that, you see the fluffy nice bit at the beginning. Do you know what I mean? No, in fact, I'm not going to ruin this. I'm going to let you use your analogy. Use the one you told me earlier, mate, about being an
Olympic athlete.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we get approached quite a lot. Usually it shows because new brands that haven't started yet go there for
inspiration,
yes. Like Basel, you do. And we often get up, we meet people, and we're very enthusiastic for them because it's great to be able to help them on that. Because I remember when I phoned up a British brand when we were starting, and he was very gracious with his time. He was on the phone for about an hour, but he said, "Don't do it." Yeah. He said it'd be a bit like having a bank. It comes in one door
and out the other.
And he's not far wrong.
Yeah.
But it is a bit like being an Olympic athlete. You watch the Olympics and you think, oh, yeah, I'm going to train. I want to do that. Yeah. But that's the pinnacle. That's the bit you see. That's the bit everybody sees. Underneath that is a massive, massive pyramid of social events we've missed, working through the night. I came up yesterday on the train. I worked solidly on my laptop. Yeah. You said to me last night, why didn't you come out? I was on my laptop working. I already know what I'm working on the way home, on the way back. I'm in the studio tomorrow. I got studio appointments. Yeah. I was invited out with some friends to, it doesn't matter where, but a social thing. I can't do that. And that's not just for this week. That's just how it is. It becomes a mindset. You're either looking, and if you're not doing something for Zero West, what you're doing is you're looking at things around you and you're going, how can I use that in my world? Yeah. It becomes an obsession.
Yeah,
and,
it does. Yeah.
A condition, I think, is the word.
I think it's akin, as you say there, mate, to authenticism in this in the way where it becomes a lifestyle. Yeah, it is a lifestyle. You can't
half do it.
You can't half do it. You're either in it or you're out of it, and there's no middle ground. And it's all encompassing. And if you allow it, it's consuming. So you've got to regulate yourself and how you spend and allocate time, and everything's very, very, very special.
That's interesting you said. I mean, time management is probably one of the hardest things. Considering
we're in the industry at times, we all struggle with it.
Yeah,
because there's just so many moving parts.
And it's changing on a daily basis. And it's just what I was going to do today has changed as a result of this and this. Yeah. And yeah, that is a real. I'm not going to say I've got it nailed down because I haven't, but it's kind of a skill you need to.
It's a moving target, mate.
Yeah, totally.
That's exactly what it is. And every so often you've got to take a knee and regroup, and then pivot accordingly, and that just comes with it. But we're sat here. Sounds like we're moaning about it. I wouldn't have it any other way, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love it.
Massively. But it's a bit like being a roller coaster. The highs are super high.
Oh, mate.
Like, we did a show recently, British Watch and Clock, that we were chatting in London.
Yeah.
That's an amazing event.
Yeah.
Amazing. It was probably one of the best shows I've ever done, if not the best.
Yeah.
The whole British industry coming together, the vibe was great, and a lot of brands created custom specials, and we did too. Obviously, they sold, and it was great. But the lows,
they're there.
Yeah, and they can be quite dark.
Yeah, absolutely.
And some of that is self-inflicted because of the, myself and Graham have exceptionally high standards, and it's dark sometimes.
No, 100%.
Because you almost live in a constant world of frustration.
Yes.
It's nothing happening quick enough.
Yeah. Mate, 100%. And it's universal.
We were chatting about this earlier.
It's universal. We've had product, mate, that we've spent the best part of a year developing and building up and getting it right and reined in and R&D and all the rest of it. It's been sat on the shelf for the last 3 weeks, mate, waiting on packaging. It just is. But if you don't laugh, you cry. It's just part and parcel of it, mate. And I think for a lot of us, this is a personal endeavor. We've engaged, or we've come into this space and we've rolled the dice as individuals or in a small team as you and your business partner have, and you leverage everything. So weathering a 3-4 week storm isn't as comfortable for us as it would be one of the big Swiss brands. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Well, 3 weeks, okay, it's fine. We've been going for 120 years.
Yeah. What's 3 weeks?
What's 3 weeks? It's no issue. For us, mate, it's
a lifetime.
Yeah, it's a lifetime. Absolutely a lifetime. It's heartbreaking, but this is the fun of it, mate. And this is again, it's you learn to love the suck. I think that's what makes the high so high, though. I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If you didn't have the lows, you wouldn't. I mean, when we went to trademark the logo.
Yeah.
So you get 3 months.
Yeah.
And you do it online, and on the last day of the 3 months, this is when we were setting up. Yeah. And the postman goes, sign here. Fist pump in the air. We're off and running. We're off and running.
Yeah.
And it was a letter from a legal department of a big Swiss brand.
No.
Short story is, very short story is, no, you can't.
Wow.
Let's put that politely. So we had to pivot. And we changed some things for the better on reflection.
Yeah.
But we had to wait another 3 months.
Of course.
And of course, the last day of I don't know why it was the last day, we get.
They love doing it.
They love doing it, but it was fine.
Yeah.
But it's just, that felt like years.
Yeah.
6 months. I mean, it's a long time anyway, but it felt like, especially when you're setting up and you're trying to get some prototypes made.
Of course.
But yeah, it's just part of the.
It's part of the dance, as it were.
Yeah, totally.
Part of the dance.
On one hand, you're quite honoured to be recognised.
Yeah.
There's 2 English guys working out of an old boathouse down on the south coast.
Yeah.
Somehow they're a threat, But it's an
odd. It's odd how it works that way, mate. Yeah. But I suppose it is. I mean, these brands have done their thing for centuries in some instances, and they're trying to protect whatever it is that they have or they feel is theirs. And I do get that. And I don't know. Perhaps in 30 or 40 years, mate, we'll be the other end of it. We'll be at the other end of it, send out nasty letters to people. But it's part of it. And I think again, something similar happened to us, mate. And I think that was the learning curve around, this is no longer a hobby. This is business now. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is legit business now. This isn't, I'm not a hobbyist anymore. This is actually happening. And I think there's an air of realization with that as well, where you're like, wow, okay, well, I'm in it for keeps this time.
Yeah. What do you think the hardest part of your business is? I mean, I'm sure there's lots, but is there?
Fundamentally, mate, for us, it's the same probably with everyone. It's relevance and momentum.
Yeah.
They're the 2 biggest bits. As far as designing stuff, I think I'm pretty good at that. I think we've got some some stuff that we've looked at watch culture and used.
Yep.
That's inspired that, and that's fine. But there are also some things that we've developed and designed on our own. The strap that we originally came to market with, our initial piece, was a proprietary design, and we got that through the IPO process in Britain. I got that registered, and the designing aspect I find really, really fun.
Yeah.
I can fall down a rabbit hole with that all week and just be sat there coming up with ideas, and you know, the lads in the shop will make jokes. Oh, he's in this mad scientist stage. Just let him cook, let him do his thing, because he'll have a series of things that'll appear, and they're not all going to be gems, but there'll be a diamond in a rough there somewhere. Do you know what I mean? So that I find easy is the wrong word, but I'm comfortable in that environment. Yeah. The bit I struggle with is staying on top of the storytelling element of what we do. Like we do so much that no one really knows about because we're so busy doing it.
Yeah, I get that totally.
You know, we're doing it here. We're doing it in Britain.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I tell a story as much as I can, and it's the best of my ability. But it's difficult. I'm not a storyteller. I'm not a creative in that way. That's why we have environments like this. But yeah, for me, relevance and momentum. Staying relevant is very difficult in what is, frankly speaking, an overcrowded space. And it's getting more and more overcrowded. Yeah. And maintaining momentum, again, is very difficult when, as an established, what I perceive us to be an established brand, and I mean that, you know, humbly, it's very difficult to maintain your momentum when you're busy designing and when there's new brands or new things popping up all the time and drawing attention away from it, and that's the same for everyone.
We get that.
I hope I've explained that right. But relevance and momentum. It's hard to stay relevant in an ever expanding space, and it's hard to maintain your momentum when you're busy doing the thing as well as trying to tell a story about it. But that's a challenge for me. How about you? Is that? Yeah,
similar sort of thing, really. I think we talked about this earlier before we came on air, that when people compare things, they're looking purely at an item and they're looking at a price. But behind that is masses, well, especially in our case, and I'm sure with yourself, because I know we spoke about it, differentiation. And you got the storytelling to get that across, why you're different, why you do things the way that you do, why that's important to you, and why it should matter to them. Yeah, absolutely. Because then they can make a better informed decision on what they're purchasing. Yeah. And yeah, that's you know, it's really interesting listening to what you said, because I can relate to all of that totally. Yeah. You know, you're either in a design phase, but you know, if you're in a design phase or a design zone, you know, we're very lucky because Graham will concentrate on designing the new watches, and I can keep him free to do that. Yes. By absorbing everything else. When it comes to designing the dials, which we do collaboratively, we do a lot of stuff collaboratively, but it's carving out the time to do that. Yeah. And you're either doing it or you're not doing it. There's no do an hour here or do a couple of hours this afternoon. You can't do that. No. You almost need to shut yourself away. You do. Yeah. You know, to absorb yourself. And then if you have a break, you need to reabsorb yourself back in it to find your headspace. And, you know, like I mentioned to you earlier, it's a bit like music. If you're writing the next album or whatever, you almost like, you know, that's why artists go away and shut themselves away in Ibiza or in a farm, you know. And myself and Grandma actually talked about doing that. Yeah. You know, actually going away, shutting ourselves off for 3 weeks, a month, or whatever. Yeah. And just, you know.
Are you familiar with the Terminal List?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm lucky enough to be fairly friendly with Jack Carr, and we chat randomly, not often, but randomly. I was chatting to him not too long ago. And, how are you doing, mate? Yeah, good. I'm up at the farm. I'm like, oh, what do you mean? He goes, basically I just peel off to write the books. I just disappear. I'm close enough where should the shit hit the fan at home, I can be there in, X amount of time.
Yeah.
But I've got space to cook. I can do my own thing and be in the moment and develop what I need to. And there's a power to that. For me, that's fishing. That's I get out, mate. Literally there. We had a little walk past it earlier.
We did.
I'm heading out tomorrow. I got a nice 9-hour window. I'm excited.
That'll clear your head.
Mate, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And we go out and we just watch that mobile signal just dead. Thank you. Bye-bye. I've checked out from the world for the next couple of hours and it's just me and the fish. That is it.
There's a lot to be said for that.
Mate, we miss that in today's day and age, mate. There's not enough of that, I don't think, for the pace in which we live our lives. And I mean that for everyone.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like everything's white hot, everything's right now, everything's instant. Do you know what I mean? Food, clothes, anything. It's instant. Yeah. So just take going off grid for a couple of hours, mate, every so often. Wow. Liberating. Liberating.
Yeah, nobody can get hold of you. Just complete.
Oh, mate,
you've got an excuse.
Yeah, just be you. Just be you for a minute and breathe. Do you know what I mean? And gather, regroup as it were, and then come back and we come up with some of the best ideas, mate. Do you know what I mean? I got a solid team within our business, and my nephew and me are both. Water guys, and we get out and we fish as often as we can, and we'll sit there and catching fish. We'll 85 to 90% of what we talk is absolutely rubbish. But there's some sprigs of.
I think that'd make a great podcast. You had to take it on the road,
mate, that would. I think no,
fishing.
That's a bad idea.
No. You could edit it down.
Yeah, we'd have to. Yeah, we would change a 9-hour trip into about an 11-minute podcast. I think, mate. But yeah, there's some gems in there, mate. We come up with some of the best ideas there. Do you know what I mean? Because we just got a chance to breathe.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to be said for that. Right. So where can the people find you, mate?
zerowest.co.uk.
Yep.
We've got a new watch coming out in June.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can't say too much about it, but if you follow our socials, we'll be leading up in May to that. So that's massively exciting for us.
Yeah.
So zerowest.co.uk.
Yeah.
Actually, you've got to give a plug.
A plug?
Yeah. See, I'm helping you out here.
Go on, mate.
For straps.
Okay.
I've been watching your podcasts.
Well, I'm not organised, mate. I'm not organised at all. Calvin's organised. Yeah. Hello, Calvin. Put your mic on, mate. Say hello. Say hello to the fine people. I don't have the mic on. Oh, you don't have it on. Right. So Calvin taught me into, very early on, mate, of coming in and recording a sponsorship video.
Right.
So we do that. I've only done it once. It just slips it in. It's majestic, mate. It's majestic. So when we do the podcast, it's all about you, which is perfect. So I've already said my bit probably 25 minutes ago.
It was good. You were very good. You were very good.
Yeah, I've been practicing.
You were very good.
Don't judge me, mate. I wear the same clothes every time.
Brilliant.
So zerowest.co.uk. Yeah, and on the socials, mate.
Yeah, at Zero West Watches. Same for Instagram and Facebook.
Perfect.
Be great to catch up with you on socials. It'd be great. We're very responsive. So
guys, head over. I love what these guys are doing. It's fun. It's exciting. There's a massive historical element to it, and the watches are great. To be fair, mate. You guys turn out a good product. So head over, check out Zero West, and until next time.